Elena Marsh stood in the hallway of apartment 6B, a bottle of Italian Barolo in her hand and the scent of anniversary roses still clinging to her coat. The laughter coming through the door was unmistakable. The voice behind it belonged to her best friend of 12 years. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. Elena had met Daniel Marsh 7 years earlier at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. He was 34, polished, and worked in commercial lending at a mid-size bank. She was a junior associate at a real estate law firm, still paying off certification fees and eating lunch at her desk. Daniel swept her into a world of good restaurants and weekend trips to New York, and she fell in love with the man and the life in roughly equal measure. What Daniel never understood, never cared to understand, was the woman Elena was becoming during those years. She made partner at 35. She began investing quietly and methodically, the way she did everything. By the time she was 38, she had accumulated $2.3 million in real estate holdings and investment accounts, structured carefully through LLCs that carried no trace of Daniel's name. He still thought she asked him to review their tax returns because she needed the help. Cassie Vance had been Elena's closest friend since their freshman year at the University of Illinois. They had shared a 2-bedroom apartment for 3 years, survived each other's worst relationships, and stood beside each other at their respective weddings. Elena had sat with Cassie through a brutal divorce at 33 and helped her find the apartment where she started over. That apartment was in the Hartwell Arms on North Michigan Avenue. The same building where Elena and Daniel lived. Elena had found the unit for her. She had even helped negotiate the lease. She had thought at the time it was a gift. She had been very wrong about what it would become. But what Elena did not know was that 8 months before that anniversary evening, something had shifted in that building she had not been invited to witness. The signs had been small enough to explain away. Daniel staying late on Thursdays. A certain vagueness when she asked about his evenings. His sudden attentiveness to Cassie's post-divorce recovery, dropping by to check in, coming home slightly fed when he had said he would be working through dinner. Elena noticed each of these things and assembled them into a story she could live with. She kept assembling it for 8 months. She stopped on the evening of May 14th. She had left the office early to prepare a proper anniversary dinner. Daniel had texted at 5:40, stopping by Cassie's to drop off some paperwork she needed. Elena had smiled at her phone and texted back a heart. Then she picked up the bottle of Barolo she had been saving for a year, took the elevator down 2 floors, and knocked on the door of apartment 6B. The laughter behind the door stopped. Then Daniel opened it. He was wearing a shirt she did not recognize. His hair was slightly disordered. He wore the carefully neutral expression of a man who has had exactly 3 seconds to arrange his face. Behind him on the couch, wine glass in hand, was Cassie, in a silk blouse Elena had always admired. "Elena," Daniel said. He said her name the way you say a word when you have run out of everything else. "This isn't what it." She handed him the bottle of Barolo. She looked at Cassie for one long moment. Then she turned around, walked to the elevator, and pressed the button for the 8th floor. She did not say a single word. She did not cry in the elevator. She waited until she was inside their apartment with the door locked and the chain on. Then she sat down on the kitchen floor and gave herself exactly 40 minutes. She set a timer. When it went off, she washed her face, brewed a pot of coffee, and picked up her phone. She did not call a friend. She did not call her mother. She called her financial advisor and asked a single question: was the Hartwell Arms still available? Because Elena had been watching that building for 14 months. And everything she needed to know about it, she already knew. The Hartwell Arms was a 12-unit residential property in one of Chicago's most coveted corridors. Its owner, a retired physician named Gerald Pruitt, had been trying to sell it off-market for over a year. Elena knew this because Gerald was a client of her firm. She had reviewed the property's financials as a professional courtesy. She knew the cap rate, the deferred maintenance schedule, the lease expiration dates, and the rent roll, which was running roughly 18% below market. She had nearly made an offer 3 months earlier. She had hesitated only because a purchase of this size would have required her to disclose to Daniel exactly how much money she controlled. She had not wanted that conversation. She had not known then that the conversation was becoming entirely beside the point. Now she knew. Over the following 6 weeks, Elena moved with a precision that would have astonished the people who thought they knew her. She retained a separate acquisition attorney, unconnected to her firm. She structured the purchase through a newly established LLC. She arranged financing through a private lender she had worked with before. She told no one. The deal closed on June 28. Elena Marsh became the sole owner of the Hartwell Arms on North Michigan Avenue, 12 units, including apartment 8D, where her husband slept, and apartment 6B, where her best friend had been spending a great deal of his time. The purchase price was $1.85 million. Cash. She filed for divorce on June 29. Daniel found out about the petition when a process server arrived at his office on a Tuesday afternoon. He called her 11 times between 2 o'clock and 5. She answered on the 12th call. "What is this?" he said. "A divorce petition," she said. "Page 3 has the itemized grounds. My attorney will handle the rest." "Elena, we need to talk." "That night, what you saw." "I have 8 months of phone records," she said. "My attorney has copies. There isn't much left to discuss." She paused for exactly 1 beat. "Goodbye, Daniel." The divorce moved quickly. Elena's finances had always been cleanly separated. Daniel's attorney found no basis for a claim on her investment accounts, which predated the marriage and had been maintained independently throughout. The settlement was fair. It was not generous. He received no share of real estate. He did not know there was real estate to ask about. He remained in apartment 8D at the Hartwell Arms. Cassie remained in 6B. They were apparently together now, openly so. Elena heard this through a mutual friend who delivered the news with the tone of someone bracing for tears. Elena thanked her and changed the subject. She was waiting for September. On a Tuesday morning in early September, every tenant in the Hartwell Arms received a formal letter from Marsh Capital Properties LLC, the new owner of record, announcing a change in building management, a renovation timeline, and updated lease terms effective 90 days from the date of the notice. Daniel called at 9:15 that morning. She answered on the second ring. "Elena." His voice had changed entirely. The easy confidence she had watched erode slowly over 7 years was simply gone now. "The letter. The building. You received your notice," she said. "You own this building." "I do." A silence fell. Not the kind that means someone is thinking. The kind that means they already understand and are still hoping they are wrong. "You bought the building we live in." "I bought the building you live in," she said. "I haven't lived there in 11 weeks. "Elena. Please. I don't know where I can't just." "The notice provides 90 days, she said. "That exceeds what the lease requires." The letter also includes a list of comparable available properties in the area. "I've been told tenants have found it quite helpful." She let a moment of silence fall between them. "I hope you and Cassie find something you love," she said. "Goodbye." 3 weeks later, Elena attended a dinner hosted by mutual friends, the kind of couple who had maintained awkward contact with both parties after the divorce, not out of disloyalty but out of a genuine inability to choose a side. She almost declined. She went because she had never been the kind of woman who disappears. Daniel and Cassie arrived together. The table produced the particular silence that falls when two separate disasters walk through the same door. Cassie stared at the tablecloth. Daniel studied his wine. Then Cassie looked up. "You didn't have to do that," she said, voice low and tight. "With the building. You didn't have to humiliate us like that." The table went completely still. Elena set her wine glass down. "I didn't do it to humiliate you," she said. And she meant it, in the way that the most devastating things are always technically true. "I bought the Hartwell Arms because it is a sound asset. 12 units, strong occupancy, rents running well below market for the corridor. After the renovation, I'm projecting a 30% increase in net operating income within 2 years. I've been watching that property for over a year." She picked her wine glass back up. "The fact that 2 of the tenants happen to be you," she said, "was a coincidence of ownership." Cassie opened her mouth. She closed it again. Daniel stared at the table with the expression of a man realizing he had never actually known the person sitting across from him. Nobody said very much for the rest of the evening. Elena sold the Hartwell Arms 18 months later for $2.4 million, after completing the renovation on schedule and under budget. She reinvested the proceeds into 2 properties in Lincoln Park. Her portfolio crossed $4.1 million by the time she turned 40. Her firm named her managing partner the same year. She heard, through the same mutual friend, that Daniel and Cassie had found an apartment on the north side. A nice building. Owned by someone else. Elena wished them nothing. Not bitterness, not misfortune, not even mild regret. Just nothing. She had learned that the most powerful thing a person can do with a betrayal is refuse to let it become the organizing principle of the years that follow. The people who counted her out had done her the greatest favor of her life. They had finally freed her from being careful about letting them see how far ahead she actually was. She had walked into that hallway carrying a bottle of wine and a marriage she believed was worth saving. She walked out of it as the landlord of their futures. And she never once raised her voice to do it. That is its own kind of justice. What would you have done? Drop your answer in the comments.